In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today we have a special guest that's going to go through the process with me about where podcasts sit in the marketing stack and how, if you are a podcaster, how you'll be able to monetize, or what the best practices are to monetize podcasting. My guest today is Nathalie Doremieux, and I'm sure I'm butchering that because my French is terrible. But meet Nathalie. She is the membership maven and AI trailblazer with a deep passion for creating thriving online programs and communities, and a knack for leveraging AI to accelerate client success. Nathalie has helped countless business owners design and scale impactful online programs and memberships. Her unique approach combines technical expertise, gamification, and automation to create seamless, results-driven experiences that keep members engaged. Nathalie, thank you so much for taking time this morning and joining the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Emmanuel.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to talk about podcasting. Obviously, it's an important part of our marketing process for the agency and for the projects that I'm involved in. And I'm curious to see from you how many kind of like what the acquisition of podcast is for business owners right now. Like what's the appetite, you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, you are a podcaster, so you know this, right? You do podcasting, you do great content, and then you have some services, some programs that you sell, and there is a gap. You know, that gap is known, right? We don't know who our listeners are, right? So it's hard to see an ROI, to look at metrics for when you have a podcast, because you really don't know what your listeners are doing next. Yes,
Sure.
You can tell them to go to a website and to do things, right? But like there is this gap. And one of the ways actually that we are using AI, for our clients, whether this is in memberships or here in podcast for lead generation, is to look at AI as a tool to solve a problem, right? And what we've identified is that there is a way to start a conversation from a podcast episode with your listener.
Okay.
Right? AI is amazing, right? It accelerates, it amplifies a business, but at the core, it's the connection with people that make business, right? So how do you use AI and make it feel like human, like you're actually genuinely caring and creating that relationship and that connection? So what we've been working on and looking at is, how do you take a passive listener listening to your episode and get him to, for the people that are interested, to take the next step?
Yeah.
How do you catch them right there as they are listening, right? And how do you start that conversation? So what we came up with is actually using the power of AI to so imagine this: you have somebody listening to your podcast episode, somebody listening to this episode, for example, right? And they love what they heard, and they would like to start to implement something, like, what is my next step? But they are not exactly sure, right? People are like, oh, I love the episode, but what's next for me? Like, how is it applying to me? And then they go on and do something else.
Right.
So we want to catch them right there. So with AI, what we're doing is, you have an opportunity for them to answer a couple of questions that are going to be selected by AI. So AI is going to analyze your episode, right? And it's going to say, I'm going to take 1, 2, or 3 questions that I can ask the listener. And when they answer these questions, I'm going to start a conversation by email with them, right? Using the knowledge that is in the podcast. So basically, you are making a connection with the listeners that are ready to take the next step. They go from passive to start a conversation. So when they answer the conversation, they get that email from you and you're CC'd on it. And now you can communicate. So what this does, it's basically turning them from passive into actively reaching out to you. And then they are in your funnel, right? It could be that you ask them to book a call or reply to the email, whatever is that next step. But it's creating that connection that we don't have right now with podcasting.
So is there an in-stream trigger, or how does it happen during the podcast episode?
So basically, you're going to have your podcast episode on Apple, Spotify, all the places, right? And you should, because the more places, the better. But you can repurpose it. And it is so powerful to have it on a page where you can actually control what is going on. Because these platforms, they want them to stay there, right? So basically, you'll have your episode, and then you have this form below that they can fill out. So it's kind of like having your listener sitting right next to you, and then you ask it a couple of questions, and based on their answer, you give them an advice, right? So it's part of that relationship.
That's cool. So you got kind of a dynamic review of the person and of the episode, and then you're feeding them some questions.
Exactly.
That's
so
cool.
And to us, this is the power of AI, and where a lot of people are not using it right. It's that in order for AI to do a great job and really amplify results, it needs to have great knowledge. So it always starts with our expertise. So that's the podcast episode, right? It needs context. And the context is the answers that the person gave on the form, right? Maybe what their problem is, where they are stuck, whatever your podcast is about, right? And so it's that knowledge, that context, and then a really good prompt that is going to write the email. So and you get a lead, right? They get added to your list, but they also get that extra email connection. So every person gets a unique email based on where they're at. And that's the beauty. It's not like generic anymore. So I love that contrast of it's AI, it's automated, but it's unique.
Yeah, and it is. It's using information that would be important to that person, so that it becomes customized.
It's relatable. It's really relatable, because if they say my pain is this, or I've tried this and it hasn't worked, AI is going to speak to that. So they're going to feel, oh, she gets me or he gets me, right?
Yeah, love that. Now, Nathalie, do you have a podcast for your company?
I do.
And what's that podcast called?
So the podcast is called the Supercharge Your Membership Show. Okay. It's got 137 episodes, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's about a year and a half, 2 years old.
Yeah, I haven't done anything in 2025 yet. I'm doing seasons. I'm keeping it, like for my sanity. Like when I have a topic that I want to talk about, then I will do a season on that. So it's less stressful. I don't want to talk for the sake of talking. But I have a lot to say. Yeah, I have a lot to say about AI. So there is another, season that is coming up. So
yeah. We're in a very dynamic space right now, aren't
we? Exactly. And there is we also did this because there are so many people that do podcasting as a hobby, right? If you don't know what it does to your business, that's really what it is. And that's a shame, because there is amazing content, right?
Yeah, inside every business.
Yeah. Right? And it's not connected to the business. I have a friend, she's got a podcast, and the client was telling her, I listen to your podcast, And she's like, dang, how many other people are listening that I'm not catching at the right moment when they're like, I like this, right?
Yeah. Well,
So,
what do you say to business owners or managers who haven't yet started their podcast? Like, what are the first things they should be thinking about when they're going to start a podcast?
I mean, starting a podcast, I think you want to start a podcast if you have a strategy behind it. There
Okay.
are too many people that start a podcast because everybody is starting a podcast or
Sure.
they're being told, like writing the book. It's the same thing, right? You've got to have I believe right now we are inundated with podcasts, right? We need to have a unique message and a message that we really, really want to share, right? And that directly connects with our business. I mean, if you do the podcast for the sake of growing your business, then I would think with the end in mind and like, what does my audience, where is my audience right now? What is their level of awareness of the problem and solution? And then speak to that with the podcast so that people start to hearing the problems and and identify with all these things, right? So that eventually maybe they'll listen to 2, 5, 10, 20 episodes, and at some point they're like, okay, I need to hear more. So it's really thinking about the end in mind. One thing that I would say is I had been thinking of creating a podcast for a while, and what was scary to me is the idea of running out of ideas.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
what if I ran out of ideas? What if I don't want to do it anymore? And I was at an event, and I met John Lee Dumas,
Okay.
right? And I told him that, and he said, "Well, you don't have to worry about that. Just do a season." And
Right.
that's why I'm doing season. He said, you
Nice.
do season, say I'm going to do 50, 100 episodes. So I did 100 the first time. And then you stop. Like, there is nothing that says that it has to be ongoing as long as the expectations are set, right? So, and that was freeing to me. Like, I started it right away. I'm like, yeah, that I can do, like with an
Nice.
aim in
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the kind of like the top 3 or 4 ways that you've seen the monetization of a podcast work out for you and for your clients.
So, I mean, one thing that I'm seeing definitely is through guest posting. So, and I have been in a few where I can tell that I am their ideal audience.
Right.
So it's a podcast episode with high value, but the purpose is also to build a connection. Again, when we connect like this and we talk, we kind of get to know each other and like what our values are, and what is important to us. And especially when you have like high ticket services, getting that connection before you start talking about real business and working together, I think is important.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh,
So sometimes it's called narrow podcasting or
mhm.
prospecting by interview is what you're
Yeah,
describing. Yep.
exactly. So I think when it's done well, it works. And
Sure.
sometimes it's a little not so, yeah. But I think it's a good, I mean, it's a valid strategy if it provides value for both parties and you get to know the person. And again, if you're selling something that somebody needs, there is nothing wrong with selling, right? You're helping. I have a solution. Do you want it? Yes or no? So I really don't have a problem with that when it's really done, when it's done well, right?
Sure. Yep. So yeah, that's one way is this narrow podcasting. A couple other ways to monetize.
So another thing that you can do is secret podcasting. So I don't know if that's something that you do, but like they are basically uh, paid podcasts that are included inside online programs. So just to give you an idea of what this could look like, when you buy a program, even if it's like a coaching program, you learn a skill, you learn something, but there is another piece that often is not taught. It could be something like the mindset, right? So you
Yep.
could get some training videos and things like that. And then you have a secret podcast that is about the thing that keeps you stuck and the mindset, right?
Right. So the
And
next dimension of whatever that
exactly,
training is.
exactly, because this is what differentiates, like when you have a program and so you have this program and you have people in the program and there are people that get results, you tell them do this, they do it, they get result. And then you have people, they get stuck, right? And it's
Yep.
it's a block, a mental block, a mindset, a money block, a worthiness, whatever that is. If you have a podcast that can, actually address that, then you're going to have more people. But if you sell the podcast about mindset, it's really not because that's not what people are looking for, but
Right.
that's what they need, right? So I was in a program that had that, and he shared this with us one time, and he said, like, this is why you guys are getting the results, is because you've been primed with the podcast,
Right.
right? And then when comes the time to actually do the thing and learn and do it, learning and doing and learning and doing, you're doing it because you have that support. So podcast as an extra level of support is a great monetization as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting. The secret podcast. I like that. That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can think really of these two. I don't know if you have more that you want to share. I'd love to hear.
Well, I think I like it. I like to look at the podcasting as the top of the funnel, and then I think there's kind of a branch where webinars and training then
Mhm.
become another way to monetize this kind of what people expect as free content from the podcast. Right? We're kind of
Mhm.
primed for that. So that's kind of one of the things. I love the narrow podcasting. I think that is something that more companies need to think about how they would basically do two types of episode. One is secret sauce and success stories, and two is interviewing prospects. And those two activities mean that you don't have to care about your listeners. You don't have to generate listeners other than the one person that you're talking to, who's your prospective client. But I think that you have to have you can't sell during the interview. It has to be relationship building, and it has to be part of
Exactly.
a longer process. So I think we're aligned there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about webinars, so I don't know what your experience is right now, but it is getting extremely difficult for people to get people on webinars, right? Like if you get 20% of people to show up,
Yeah.
it's really complicated. And what we're seeing right now is paid workshops, right? Like low pay, but at least you don't get the tire kickers, and you get the people that
Right.
uh, invested a bit of money. Like it's not a lot, but it's just enough to show that they're actually serious about that. They are not let me put my name in and I'll watch the replay maybe, right?
Right.
Because those are not the people that you're interested to have even on the workshop or on the webinar, right? And that's why I think that AI has a role to play, just because of that, because it's so hard to get people from like a freebie to a nurture sequence to a webinar to a launch with a webinar. Like you're seeing the people that I'm seeing right now. Some of our we have clients that make a lot of money with courses. Still, the amount of investment that they have to make in ads and all of that, I mean, small business owners, we can't afford to do that, nor do I
Right.
want to do that. Like
Right.
that's not how I want to launch. So it's like, how do you grow this business ethically in a way where you build connections? And for me, it's definitely partnerships. Like when I do podcasting, I that's what I'm looking for as well: partners and collaborators. How can we support each other? Because very often there is some type of complementarity
Yeah.
that is going on, and that's how I choose to grow our business.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. The joint ventures, yeah, already there's already an existing database of people that are trusting the person that's sharing it with you, and so it makes
Yeah.
it a much warmer offer. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Natalie, I love the work that you're doing, and I'd love to have you on the show again in a few months and see what you're up to.
Absolutely.
Things
Yeah, we love that.
progress. Cool.
Yes.
And let's see, how do people get in touch with you if they want to get some help connecting with the listeners of their podcast?
Yeah, sure. So you can check out podcastleadflow.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn. My name, if you can spell it, you'll find me. You said it right, actually. You said it better than most people.
Well, say it for me. Say it for me again.
Nathalie Doremieux.
Doremieux. Okay,
Yeah.
that's close.
Yeah.
I've studied Spanish and German, so my French is terrible. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Natalie, I really appreciate your time today, and thanks for sharing your thoughts on podcasting. And I look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep, it's great. Well, that's good. It's a good focus to think about how not only the podcast topics connect with people, but then working on after the episode to connect with people via email. And the work that Natalie's doing is worth checking out in order to start tightening up the top of the funnel and turning the podcast into the lead gen machine that it can be. I hope this was an episode that provided value for you, and hope that you take some time out of your day to look at some of the processes that you're involved in, find some AI tools that maybe could save you a little bit of time so that you can reallocate and make yourself available to your friends, your family, or maybe get outside and breathe the fresh air. So make sure that you're using AI as a tool that's deepening your professional acumen, or that you're using it to get more time with the people and activities that you love. It's Emmanuel Rose, Marketing Age of AI, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.